Utah is targeting one of the top running backs in the transfer portal. Can they land him? And Utah also added a pretty good running back earlier this week, as well as another player. The portal continues to go nuts, and we're trying to keep it all straight as it relates to the Utah perspective on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first view and listen of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If this is your first time listening to this show, make sure you like and subscribe. Love interacting with all of you in the YouTube comments, as well as on social media, where you can follow our show at Locked On Utes on X. And today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by the College Football Playoffs. That's right, the College Football Playoff is here, and you don't want to miss a moment of the action. The College Football Playoff, presented by Allstate, begins with 4 first-round games December 20th and the 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. Make sure you guys check out the College Football Playoff this weekend. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined on today's show by Elijah Grayson Murray of Athlon Sports' All Utes. And Elijah, we got a lot to talk about, is the case every single day right now. There is always new news that's popping up and breaking. It's amazing. This is the world of college football, but this is what it is. So we're going to talk about the running back that Utah added. Utah also added another defensive back, and we'll talk about how cool it is that Spencer Fano was just picked up more All-American honors. But we got to start with the potential that Utah has to get one of the best backs in college football, and that's Wayshawn Parker, who was the Washington State running back. He was just a freshman this past year, 6 foot, 199 pounds, went for 735 yards, 4 touchdowns, and averaged 5.4 yards per carry. Also had 1 receiving touchdown and 100 yards receiving in total. But this is a really physical and good back. I mean, he did a lot of nice things for a Cougars team that spent most of the year ranked. I know that Washington State wasn't a Power 5 team anymore, but he's a Power 4 player. This would be a big get for Utah. He canceled his visits with UCLA and USC. So it's down to Utah and Arizona. And Utah, of course, now has his former coach, and Coach Atuai as the running back coach. I like Utah's chances here, and this would be a monster get for Utah.
Yeah, I think all the stars are aligned for Utah to get Parker. I mean, why would you not want to follow your running back coach who you had so much success under to a Power 4 program with so much talent coming in as well? It's kind of
an All-American, a right tackle too to block for you.
Exactly. Yeah, Spencer Fano, and we'll I know that we'll talk about that a bit later. But I think he's still young too. I think he was a freshman last year.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a freshman last year. Okay, so this guy, he has a ton of years left. He is incredibly explosive. Obviously, the Pac-12 is no longer a Power 5 conference, but this guy clearly showed that he is a Power 4 conference level player. And I think it makes sense that he will end up in Salt Lake City. Arizona is a solid school as well, but I don't see any ties there that would, see him pick the Wildcats over Utah.
Yeah, look, this is Locked On Utes. Obviously, it's in the name. I'm high on Utah football, and most of you who listen to this show routinely know that. I think Utah is in a better place right now than Arizona football. Even though Utah lost 7 of their last 8 games, they still won 3 Big 12 games. They beat Baylor. It was a non-conference game. They beat UCF, and they beat Oklahoma State. Now, 2 of those teams I recognize were not good Big 12 teams. But as we also talk about all the time, like, there's a difference to me between there's no hope for the future and we just lost a lot of close games. And that was unfortunately why Utah was a bad team last year. They couldn't get over the hump of close games, but they were in every single game. Arizona was not in games. Arizona got blown out routinely. They're losing Tetairoa McMillan, their premier receiver. I think they're going to get Noah Fafita back, which is big, but I feel like Utah is the better destination here, and I really like what Parker can do. I mean, he was a guy who only got over 15 carries in 1 game, and that was against San Jose State earlier in the year, produced 76 yards there. But look at the game against Utah State, 11 carries, 149 yards, 13 yards per carry, and once again, averaged 5.4 yards per carry. I think Parker, when he's paired up with the guy we'll talk about in the second segment that Utah landed early, I think it could be a lethal 1-2 punch in Utah's backfield.
Oh, 100%. This guy, he, I'm a Browns fan, so I like to reference, the Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt 1-2 punch. He would be the Kareem Hunt to the Nick Chubb 1-2 punch. You have that guy who is explosive. He can catch the ball. He's not really gonna. I mean, he can, punch it down the middle, but that's not what you're going to use him for. That's what you're going to use the next guy that we're going to talk about for. This guy, he's going to be, just the electric dude who can get that yard and be your dual threat back. And I think under Beck's offense and with his running back coach, now in that system, I think it's a perfect fit for him.
I think it's incredibly exciting. And I do think that Utah's got a great chance to land Parker. So often, too, what do we see? A freshman to sophomore leap. Tease Spencer Fano a little bit. Freshman to sophomore leap was pretty great. How about Caleb Lomu? Wasn't good enough to get on the field his freshman year. Sensational his sophomore year. Freshman to sophomore leap, like we talked about. I think Parker could have a similar leap that way, and I would love if Utah could land the Cougars back that put up great numbers basically in the Mountain West, as we kind of talked about. As unfortunately, that's just what they were in last year, but I do feel like he is a Power 5 type of player. It's the reason he's only had Power 4 offers now, and I'm really high on Parker's game. I think he's got good explosiveness, good speed, good strength, and I think he's all around a really good and a really quality back. And I tell you what, if Coach Atuai can get off to a good start of adding, I want to talk about Mike Washington, who's the transfer from New Mexico State that Utah added in a moment. But if you're telling me Coach Atuai started off his recruiting and transfer portal additions with Wayshawn Parker, pairing that with Mike Washington, and you get Mike Mitchell right now as the third back, basically, that is a loaded backfield, Elijah.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, also you have to think we're coming out, the offense wasn't great this year, but you still fielded a 1,000-yard rusher. So that's got to be, a telltale sign for any running back coming to Utah. Although you have a new offensive coordinator, who's probably going to be a bit more, or hopefully a bit more pass heavy.
Dampier at 1,000 yards rushing last year.
Exactly. You're still going to have a majority run offense, whether it be from the quarterback or from the running back. And so, as a running back, you're coming in, you're like, I'm primed to be in a position to where I can get 800 to 1,000 yards this season. And while they're probably Mike Washington and Parker, depending on how the structure goes, I would assume they're going to split carries to some extent. If they both, if Parker does come to Utah, but I think both of them would benefit. And as we've seen in the NFL and, with other schools across the nation, 1-2 punches work out for both running backs. And I think it would be a very cohesive duo back there.
I agree. I think Parker's a great player. And you know what else? I think Mike Washington's pretty dang great too. So let's talk about Utah's other running back that they were able to add in the transfer portal already. I should say they haven't added Parker yet. We're just hoping they do. But let's tell you about the guy they were able to secure in one moment. But first, today, our episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel has you covered. It's the place to be for all of your sports betting needs because FanDuel, you can get ready to tackle the NFL action with America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet, and that's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And the NFL continues to deliver. We're gearing up for Saturday games along with those college football games. So it is going to be a loaded weekend of football action. We still got NHL, NBA. As for that football action, I got my eyes personally on that game on Friday night. Notre Dame taking on Indiana. I know everyone's kind of taking a dump on the Hoosiers, but I really like what Kirk Cignetti has been able to build in Indiana. And I know Marcus Freeman's team has been playing well, but it's still a team that lost to Northern Illinois in the beginning of the season. So I like Indiana to keep it close. But however you guys are feeling, make sure you guys head over to FanDuel Sportsbook today. NHL, NBA, college football playoff, and of course, too, got college basketball going on. So head over to FanDuel Sportsbook, and you can see all of the latest lines, odds, and actions today. I also want to talk to you about our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks has you covered. And what exactly is Prize Picks? Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. Just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. You can make your holidays bigger and brighter with Prize Picks, the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. You can join now because the holiday season with Prize Picks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas. Prize Picks now offers MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season, and Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. How about that too? So make sure you guys head over and get Prize Picks today. With Prize Picks, you can download the app and use the code LOCKEDONCollege. That's all caps, no spaces, to get $50 off instantly after $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. And once again, you can download the app today. Use that code, all caps, Locked On College. Get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game today. It's as easy as going over and saying, hey, I think Jared Goff is going to have more than 230 passing yards and Saquon Barkley for more than 1 touchdown. Lock it in and see if you can start winning today with Prize Picks. That code, all caps, Locked On College. Prize Picks, run your game today. All right, Elijah, keeping it rolling here, talking about commitments to the University of Utah. And Utah was able to add a really good running back, someone I am incredibly fired up about, that the University of Utah was able to land in Mike Washington. And this is a guy who comes over from New Mexico State. So Jason Beck was the offensive coordinator in New Mexico, but instead Mike Washington from the New Mexico State Aggies is also going to be coming on over. Last year for the Aggies, 725 carries, 725 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns, 157 carries, 4.6 yards per carry, a proven back who excelled for New Mexico State, feels like he's ready for a new role. And I think as a tandem with Parker, or even if it was just him and Mike Mitchell, I feel really good about it.
Yeah, 100%. I've been looking at his career, and this is, he's a true workhorse back. This is the second time in his career that he's gone over 150 carries. And the first time he did it was in 2022 at Buffalo. In that season, he went for 625 yards and 7 touchdowns. So he's proven when he gets the touches, he can perform, and he can, be the man that gets the ball in the end zone. And I think this is a great hire, or sorry, not a great hire, a great get. 6'2", 215. This man is an absolute beast, and I personally am a fan of like big backs that are just like super physical. I think this guy is a perfect fit for Kyle Whittingham. And I think, like you said, even if we don't get Parker and it's just him and Mitchell, I still think that 1-2 punch is one of the better ones in the Big 12. If Mitchell can stay healthy and improve upon last season, I think it's a great duo. And I'm very excited for this guy to see what he can do in Utah colors.
Yeah, you look at what Washington was able to do. How about, you want to talk about putting on a great impression in your final performance? Last game against UTEP, 26 carries, 130 rushing yards, and a touchdown in the contest too. And you look at just a few weeks back, how about against Western Kentucky, 19 carries, 152 yards, and 2 touchdowns. This is a guy, when given the opportunities, can step up. Jason Beck actually faced off against Washington in a 50-40 loss. How about that high-scoring game there, where we saw Dampier and Washington going back and forth. And in that one, he had 13 carries for 54 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he was kind of a complimentary back last year. When given the larger role, like the UTEP game, he excelled. Same thing as the Western Kentucky game. And I think this is a guy who, given the offensive line that Utah has, Utah is returning everyone up front. That's incredibly important when we're talking about this too. And even some of the guys were, look, did I think Jaron Kump played great last year? No, but Utah's competition for him, and a Keith Olson as well as an Ike Garcia, that I'm excited. A competition, iron sharpens iron, and we'll see who wins that job. But I think Utah offensive line is going to improve too. Teams won't be able to load the box as much because Dampier he's a better quarterback than Isaac Wilson. Like, that's not even a debate. So even though teams will load the box more, the fact that Dampier can throw up better, you have to respect that a little bit. And the fact that Dampier can just run is going to lead to a lot of defenses being burned regardless. I feel like anyone is in position to succeed with this new look Utah. Guys will be in a position more now, even last year, to succeed in Utah's new look offense, assuming Kyle Whittingham lets Jason Beck run his offense, which is a big assumption considering some of the past things there. But I feel really good about Washington, what he's shown, and I'm just excited to see this new look Utah offense too.
Yeah, and Washington has also proven that he can, be a solid receiving back in 2022. When he rushed for 625 yards at Buffalo, he also racked up 135 receiving yards and a touchdown. And even last season at New Mexico State, he, had 74 receiving yards and a touchdown on only 9 receptions. So, he is just as much of a dual threat as Parker is, which is incredible to know that whoever you have in the backfield, assuming that Parker comes to Utah, whoever you have in the backfield is going to open up your game plan so much. And I think that's part of the reason that Beck brought him in, is because, first of all, he faced up against him firsthand and knows what he's capable of. And he probably watched him throughout the season. It was just like, this guy fits perfectly within my plan. And I trust Beck,
Sure.
And, bringing in these guys, he clearly has a vision and a type of player that he likes, and he's bringing those guys in and getting them ready to go. And I'm excited to see how his offensive vision can be fully fledged out next season.
Yeah, I'm excited for it too. I think it's going to be really key when executed, and I think Washington's going to be a big part of that. I'm excited for him in a year in the Utah weight room, get even bigger and stronger. The experience he had at New Mexico too. It feels like Utah got a really good get. He'll be a senior next year too, so a veteran guy that I'm looking forward to seeing explode on the scene in Salt Lake City. Another guy I'm hoping has a big year for the University of Utah is their newest commitment. Texas A&M cornerback transfer Donovan Sanders comes over now. He didn't do a lot with the Aggies last year, but when he was with Cal Poly, had a lot of success. And Elijah, I know you had an opportunity to write a full-on article over on Athlon Sports about Sanders. So what can you, Saunders, what can you tell us about him?
Well, I mean, this guy, his measurements are incredible. 6'3", 195 pounds. He'll be able to match up with, your tallest guy on the opposing team, which has also been, a bit of an issue for Utah in years past. You kind of have a shorter cornerback room outside of Vaughn. And so, this guy comes in, he kind of fills that Vaughn spot very well. And while he didn't get much play time with the Aggies last year in College Station, his season, which resulted in him making the move to the SEC, was very good. He recorded 17 total tackles, 16 of which were solo tackles. He defended 11 passes, and he also snagged 3 interceptions, which is pretty impressive for someone of his size. His measurements are that of a safety, and to be playing quarterback at such a high level, to the point where an SEC school wants you. Obviously it didn't work out, but to even be noticed by an SEC school and from Cal Poly, and to be that says something about your talent. And I think when Utah is going after a cornerback, and we've mentioned this before, there's something special, and that they see something that they can develop within him. And so I am all for this guy. I think he's going to be a massive addition to the room. And I'm very excited to see, because I'm a big fan of big corners. And so I'm a big fan to see how he works out with the room.
As you mentioned, 6'3", 195.
Yeah.
Kind of hard to ignore that. So I'm excited to see if he can crack the rotation. Utah, yes, they lost Calhoun, and that really hurt. But you still get Kenan Johnson's coming back from injury. You got Caldwell they picked up from the community college ranks earlier this week. Smith Snowden returns as your slot corner. And I really liked what Elijah Davis did last year too. So that's a really good group of cornerbacks for this Utah football team. And I'm excited to see what they can do. Sharif Shaw, we know what a great talent evaluator is of DBs too. So I'm expecting big things out of the Utah secondary once again in 2025. And speaking of big things, Spencer Fano, man, he continues to rack up the accolades. We got to talk about what an absolute dog he has been for the University of Utah, and just how awesome it is to see one of our guys for our school getting recognized. We are going to discuss that in one moment. But first, want to remind you about what's coming up this weekend. That's right. It's finally here. The college football playoff. It's that time of the year. The college football playoff is back. And with the newly expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports' coverage of the college football playoff begins December 21st, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our first matchup, the SMU Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. That's right. You can stream the games on Max too. College football playoff available on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. It's going to be an epic college football playoff. You don't want to miss it. All right, Elijah, coming back into this one as we round things out here, got to talk about our guy, Spencer Fano. He has been fantastic. And I want to say, coming into the year, I had my questions about Spencer Fano. He had good moments as a freshman at the left tackle spot, but there were ups and downs. So I was curious about how it looked. He didn't look great against Southern Utah either. But after that game, he was great. He was fantastic, and he earned more All-American honors. He's one of the best tackles that's come through the University in Utah in a very long time. He got named an All-American second team by the Associated Press, which is just fantastic, too. He's got PFF All-American, Walter Camp All-American, and he was named a CFN Freshman All-American first team in 23-2. He is the fifth Utah offensive lineman named an All-American by the AP and the first since 2010. This is massive. Couldn't happen to a better guy. Congrats to Spencer Fano, who is just an absolute beast at the right tackle spot for Utah.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I didn't really know how, he would develop going from year one to year two because he didn't impress too much. Yeah, and he switched sides as well.
He played right side a lot in high school, but it's still a transition.
Right. Yeah, and so I think he's impressive. He's very impressive. And I think he's kind of growing into his own in what we expected him to be. Also, the fact that he's coming back to us is a great get for us because it's hard to find tackles, especially that can, be as sound blockers as he is. And, while the offensive line as a whole didn't necessarily have the best season in regards to especially defending or helping block for the quarterback. I would say they did pretty good on the run, but in terms of pass game, it wasn't as great. I think he was a bright spot for the offense, and I think he will continue to develop and go into this next season with, I think it also helps to have someone like Dampier come in and give them that opportunity to, maybe mess up once or twice. Obviously you don't want them to, but Dampier gives them the option to have that mistake and he can still make a play out of it. And so I think it'll be a very good duo back there. I think that right side is gonna be locked down even more so than it was this year. And I'm very excited to see how the steps that he takes to further his development, especially being named to such a prestigious honor at this young of age already.
Yeah, it's incredible for Spencer Fano. Shout out to him and can't wait to see what he's going to do. And I think it was Alex Markham of Utah Rivals tweeted out first round pick in 2026. He's got a good shot to be. I tell you what, with how Spencer Fano looks, I can see it for sure. Elijah, the portal continues to be crazy. So who's a guy you're keeping an eye on? And also, if people want to read more about the guys you're keeping an eye on, where do they need to head over to?
So the guy that I'm keeping an eye on is Charlotte transfer Omega Blake. I think this dude, we offered him. He was actually our new wide receiver coach, Micah Simon's first offer before he was even officially announced. I think this guy, I have a friend who goes to Charlotte, and he loves this dude. Blake was actually, if I'm not mistaken, he was second in the nation in yards per catch with 28.4. And so, I think that is, he has incredible big playability. He has a bunch of offers, and he actually started his college career at South Carolina. So, he is a talented guy. And Utah has to battle Oklahoma State, Michigan State, Arkansas, Florida State, and Colorado State for his services. So obviously, it's not a guarantee that he comes to Salt Lake City, but if he does come to Salt Lake City, at 6'2", 180 pounds with that speed and that big playability, he would be a massive get for Utah. And I think Dampier would have a lot of fun with him as one of his top weapons. And so that's who I'm looking for in the transfer portal in the next coming days. And all that information, all the breaking news will be on my Twitter at Elijah G. Murray. I am covering all the happenings with all the new player acquisitions and stuff. And so you can head over there and keep up to date with everything.
Omega Blake. First of all, what a great first name. And then 795 receiving yards, 9 touchdowns on just 32 catches. This, to me, is wide receiver 1 making for Utah if they can land Blake. Totally agree with you. Hope Utah can close the deal here. And Elijah, happy I was able to close the deal and get you back on the show, my friend. You're the best. Thanks again.
Of course, anytime. I love it.
That's going to do it for today's Locked On Utes. The portal will continue to be absolutely wild. I have no idea what I'll be talking about tomorrow because there'll probably be even more brand news tomorrow. So we hope you'll join us then in another edition of the wacky, crazy transfer portal. We're trying to keep it all straight on Locked On Utes. Hope to see you tomorrow.